Hi everybody, welcome to episode 42 of the Photography Explained podcast. In this episode, what are the steps in photography? Or as I've written in my notes, on photography. Good start. I'm your host Rick, and each week I will try to explain one photographic thing to you in plain English in less than 10 minutes without the irrelevant details. My aim is to explain things in just enough detail to help you and I with our photography and no more. And I have to tell you this, I can now say this in my sleep quite nicely, but when it comes to recording, I still have to read it from the script. Yes, there is a script. Anyway, moving on. So who am I? Well, I'm a professionally qualified photographer based in England with a lifetime of photographic experience, which I share with you on my podcast. What are the steps in photography? Here are my 10 steps. Follow these and you will have a good grounding in photography. Number 1, learn your camera. If you check out Photography Explained podcast episode 9, I covered that nicely in how can I learn to use my new camera. Now this is one of those fundamental things to me. We buy these fancy bits of kit. I won't say we, but I have bought cameras and never learned how to use them properly. And it was a bit of an eye-opener when I actually opened up the manual on my Canon 6D. I mean, it's fine, have a when you get a new camera, take it out the box, chuck a battery in, chuck a memory card in, go out and have some fun with it. Of course, we all do that, and why wouldn't we? But at some point, you should really learn how to use it properly. You'll be amazed by what you might find. Number 2, or step 2, quite like that, learn composition. Now, this is something which to me is so fundamental that I covered this in episodes 12, 13, 14 and 15. Because composition, if you think about it, is what the photograph is. This is the start, middle and end of photography to me. Take some time, learn composition. Once I started thinking about this and studied composition, my photographs got much better and I took much less rubbish. Number 3, step 3. I'll get the hang of this, you never know. What's worrying is my list goes to 12, even though the title's 10. Okay, we'll call them bonus ones. Number 3, light. Photography, after all, is drawing with light. So you need to become a student of light. Learn what it does, how it interacts in the scene, how it makes things relate to each other, and how from moving from one point to another, you can change how the light is playing in a scene. I'll say it again, photography is drawing with light. Some say writing. I say drawing. I'm happy with that. Step 4, exposure. Now, you have to learn how to get the exposure correct. Again, this is something else that I've covered in previous episodes. He says, looking at his list, episode 21, what does exposure mean in photography? And then there are some other ones about aperture, shutter and everything. You can go to my website, check out the list. It's all there, all good stuff. But you have to get your exposure correct. So learn exposure. Next one, step 5, learn focus. Get your focus nailed. Get the bits you need in focus, get the bits you don't want in focus blurry. There's an art to this, it takes practice. Number 6, step 6, is practice. Now, I've said this more times than I care to remember. The number one way to improve your photography is to practice. Get out with your camera, take photos, practice, practice, practice. The more I practice, the better I get. The less I practice, the rustier I get, and the less of an enjoyable experience it is. Once you've got a digital camera, it doesn't cost you any more to take 10 photos, 100 photos, because it's not free, but you know what I mean. It's all going on a memory card. Practice. If you take one thing away from this, that is it. I do talk about this in some of the other episodes on the podcast. Number 7, try things. Now, in recent episodes, I've gone through some of the different types of photography. I didn't do all of them. I did a list of the 20 most popular types. And then I went through, well, the ones I know most about and the ones I knew the least about. The ones I knew least about being wedding photography and not travel photography, street photography. Travel photography, I have nailed. I'm happy with that. Try all these things. And once you've had a go at them, because that sounds quite onerous, doesn't it? Try all these different photography things, different genres, styles, types, call it what you want. When you tried these things, I strongly advise that you do this. Number 8, step 8, you niche down or niche down, depending where you are. The saying in the online marketing world is, the riches are in the niches. Now, we English say niche, so that'll be the riches are in the niches. Doesn't quite work as well, does it? What do I mean by this? Simple. I photograph buildings. That's it. I don't photograph anything else. I photograph anything in the built environment. Any kind of building, structure, installation, plant, you name it, anything. I don't photograph animals, things that move, people, fashion, all these other areas. I don't do them. I'm not interested in them, but I want to do the thing that I enjoy, that I make money doing, that I am the best at. Niche down. Don't try to be the photographer who photographs everything for everybody, everywhere. Because if you do that, you'll be pleasing nobody, you won't have a target audience, and you'll be spreading yourself too thin. How do I know this? Because I spent years doing it. I tried to cover all areas of photography, thinking I need to get as many jobs as possible, and it didn't work. Now I do one thing. It makes it much easier to focus on it, no pun intended, to market it, to work at it, to become excellent at it. Step 9, editing. I use Lightroom for 99% of my photos. I use Photoshop to remove things. That's it. I'm not a fan of Photoshop. I'm not clever enough. Lightroom's great. I've been with Lightroom since version 1. Choose some software, whatever it is. I'm not saying Lightroom. That's what I choose to use. And learn how to use it properly. I've been using Lightroom since 2007, and I have been using it all the time for all the photos taken since then. And I've got to the point now where I'm doing less editing of images than ever. I've refined my workflow down to something quite simple and basic, but it's repeatable and gives me high quality images every time. Step 10, review your work. Look at what you've done. Be honest with yourself. Critique your work. Even better, get somebody else to critique it. I know that's difficult to do. I did that when I joined the British Institute of Professional Photography. That was my first formal critiquing, and it was a revelation, an eye-opener, and it was a great leveler for me because I thought I was better than I was. Get a critique. I'd even suggest you pay for one from somebody who's trustworthy at this kind of thing. Step 11. This is a don't. Other gear. Don't worry about gear too much. Get a camera, get a tripod, get a couple of lenses, get the basics that you need and learn how to use them. I used to spend all my time looking at gear, buying gear, not using gear, wasting money, not practicing. Forget the gear. That's not going to give you the great photos. The camera is, and what you point your camera at and how you take the photos. We need gear obviously, but don't obsess about it. Number 12, step 12, enjoy photography. I still love photography. I feel very fortunate that after all these years I still love photography, and I want you to enjoy it as well. One of the best ways of enjoying photography is to get out, practice taking photos, keep it simple, and don't worry about the other noise around there because there's too much noise in this world for me. Okay, as you'll see, I am now going into the script from the last episode, which I will delete before I do the transcript. My one-line summary is, follow my 10 steps in photography and you will have an excellent grounding in photography. Let's keep it simple and enjoy it. So, what do I want you to do now? Number 1, just let me know your thoughts on Twitter. You can get hold of me at RickPhoto. 2, subscribe to my podcast if you enjoyed this episode. This helps me. 3, rate and review my podcast if you enjoyed this episode. This helps me too. 4, tell someone you know about my podcast. This also helps me. And if you want to tell more than one person, I won't stop you. Next episode. Well, I enjoyed this, which is a bit of a putting things together episode. So I think I'm going to, I haven't done this yet, so I need to work on it. I think I'm going to do some more steps, maybe steps to taking a photo, step by step. I don't know. I'll have a think about it. I'll record something later on. So for now, I will say thank you for listening to my small but perfectly formed podcast. Check out my website, rickmcevoyphotography.com, where you can find out all about me and my architectural and construction photography work, as well as my photography blog, where you can learn lots more about photography. And please also check out my Photography Explained podcast website, where you can find out how to ask me a question, find a list of episodes, and also things I'm going to explain in future episodes. You can also listen to the podcast from there. This episode was brought to you very much by the power of spring optimism. I've been Rick McEvoy. Thanks again for listening to me and for giving me 12 minutes of your valuable time. See you on the next episode. Cheers from me, Rick.